feared and feared through Killarney. Now I'm back to hitching with the wind. But if Mickey Flynn should ever find me, I'll throw me caution all behind me and square off on that son of a bitch again. He cracked open a river too, he beat me Sunday through and through, and so jiggle my unconscious frame. I won me healthy sheriff fights, well lucky son still had me life since Mickey Flynn beat me dumb and lame.
We ain't chasing shit tonight. Baseball is awful. Here we are at the CTP podcast. I am Shane. I'm hosting this one with Scott over on the West Coast. Scott, how are you?
I'm all right. Got a fresh haircut today because barbershops were open in California. So
Ingrid?
Yeah, my girl Ingrid, she hooked it up.
Very nice.
Did the thing that, only hot chicks are allowed to do, or went in, told her one thing, went, nope, I know how you look better. Cut my hair a different way, don't really care. Just glad to not look like a girl anymore. So.
Do you, in fact, look better?
I mean, I definitely look better because I was looking pretty rough there for a bit, dude. Long hair life ain't for me. I've since learned.
Oh, it's baseball season. Yeah. Kind of. So long hair is fine for me right now.
It's true.
Then I have Boric. Sir, Boric, you are going to provide me so much relief in a non-sexual way right now because you're going to let me throw batting practice to you, and I'm hoping that you'll throw it back to me. How are you, sir?
Doing very well. I kind of just been relaxing and taking up my time by writing different articles for the two sites I write for, and then just chilling with friends on the video games, really. Whatnot. So just doing those types of things.
Well, good, man. I'm glad to have you guys on. Real quick, before we get into the swing of things, we only have two topics for you tonight. I do just want to give a quick shout out. If you are close to the Bucks County area or the Montgomery County area or Philadelphia, my buddy Thaddeus passed away, 28 years old, earlier this week. If you are in this area, you don't even need a last name right now. You knew who Thaddeus was. I know that some of our buddies listen to this show. I don't recall if he did or not. But our thoughts are with his family right now. It's obviously pretty difficult anytime you're 28 years old and you get that kind of news. So Thaddeus, we miss you, man. And then to all his friends, family, and everything like that. Obviously, we're all thinking of you guys. But we are going to drop this one right into some of the baseball topics that we do have for you. I led this one off not as our typical We Are the Chasing Pennant podcast, and we're chasing a pennant tonight because we can't. Because baseball's terrible. Baseball has found a way to really royally screw this thing up. I have so many tweets. I have so many articles. I don't even know where to begin. But at this point, I'm going to shift this over to Scott real quick. When you see basketball and you see hockey and all these different sports that are midseason, rearing for a comeback and making announcements and things are moving in a good direction. And then you see baseball offering to pay 10 to 20% of player salary. As a fan, what does that make you feel like?
I mean, as a fan, it makes me feel terrible because it's the owner's way of saying we only do this for money, which baseball, while there's a lot of money in the game, it's just not about that. It is the summer. It represents so much more than just the money there. So to hear this is like someone rubbing it in your face a little bit that something that you love and care deeply about is just not that important to them. They only care about dollars and cents. The businessman in me speaks out. I mean, every once in a while I do talk a little bit of business here, and just as a player, it's just so shitty to hear that the owners are like, all right, you know what, you can make 10% of what we promised you before. Or you can just make nothing at all. That's all I'm going to offer you. Like, it's just a horrible business deal. I don't understand why the players would do it. There's just nothing really positive coming out of this. And baseball is looking the worst of any sport by far. We're not chasing pennants. No one's chasing pennants. We're definitely not having fun right now in terms of the game of baseball. And Boric, I'm glad I got you here on the line. We were the ones that were looking kind of positive before, and looks like doomsday is upon us, my friend. We might not be getting baseball.
Yeah. I mean, it's definitely annoying. I know the people are already fed up about it because I also, being baseball and hockey, or even when we pay attention to a lot of the Canada stuff too, and Tim and Sid did a poll on it. Would you rather hear about the MLB return to play negotiations or just get to the end results? Basically, just get to the point. And it had over almost 3,000 votes, and 83% said just get to the end results. So don't tell me all the interlining BS. Just tell me what the end results were, which basically just goes to show. And then if you read comments, people are already fed up with the league and the back and forth and the fact that billionaires are kind of jockeying for money in a time when the entire country is obviously not at the best economic state due to a pandemic. So that's a very bad look for the league as well. And it's also a bad look for Manfred when every other commissioner is looking very damn good in this offseason in all the de facto off seasons for the NBA and NHL, and then the actual off season for the NFL. So it just looks terrible for him as well.
I will say one other thing that I had to pull an article up in the background, while we were talking about this to double check myself. One good thing I am reading about is, it's widely talked about how minor leaguers are just so underpaid, unless you're just a big time contract guy. Well, those guys are eligible to collect unemployment because of the CARES Act, and they are making a little bit of extra money, which is a small bright spot in all of this because, those guys struggled. They were getting paid $400 a week before this by Major League Baseball. And they were able to collect the $600 there. So at least they're still getting that $600 a week plus their unemployment benefits, which they under normal circumstances won't be able to get. So, hopefully some of those guys are still getting by and able to do something to hold off till next year.
So I'm glad you mentioned things like that. Not even necessarily that we have to go all the way down to, some of the lower level minor league guys, but it's so often misconstrued what that number kind of means to an individual. And we sit there and we see all these different people at this juncture saying, at this point, you're still going to make $7.5 million a year if you're Bryce Harper on this proposed salary breakdown that we had received a few days ago. But this is a guy that's making, I think this year's $28 million a year or so. You're asking them to take nearly 75% pay cut. To put that in perspective, say you make $10 an hour and your boss says come in and risk the exact same amount of week to week work that you're going to put in, but I'm going to pay you $250 now. That doesn't sit right with you. These guys earn a particular dollar, whether or not we agree with what that dollar is, or we could ever fathom that kind of money coming into our pockets. At the same point, it still represents something in their world, and their world's a little bit different than ours financially speaking. But not everyone's a Bryce Harper. There are a lot of guys that are working on these major league contracts right now that are not making $28 million a year. There's a lot of guys making under $1 million a year. When you sit there and you think, well, shit, I make under $1 million. Sure, but you're not asked to travel the country, be away from your family for 6 months, put your body at a physical toll. So much goes into what you do as a professional athlete. We all look at that, not us, but so many people that are speaking on this right now, because everyone has a keyboard and time on their hands, which is a nightmare going through comments on these things. They see, how can you not live off of, $225,000 a year? That's absurd. Well, they didn't build their life upon that. What's up, Bork?
I was going to say, though, before you go too far ahead, I know I saw an article earlier on Scott's point about minor leaguers. Some teams are able to still pay them through May 31st, but according to Score's Michael Bradburn, May 31st is the deadline. So now with that date approaching that they said they would pay them their per week salary, at least 11 teams have begun the process of cutting minor leaguers as of Thursday, including the Cardinals, Mariners, Brewers, Reds, Mets, Nationals, Orioles, Rockies, and et cetera, and so forth. And 100 were released as of Thursday, and 100 more will be released in the coming days, with upward of 1,000 players in total being cut, sources told Jeff Passan of ESPN.
Exactly.
So the cuts are starting to come because they only guarantee their salaries until the end of this month, which is, of course, quickly approaching. So they only have to pay them for a few more days.
They to make it even worse, Borg, they were actually not paying people their salaries in the minor leagues. They were just paying them $400 a week, regardless of who they were.
Yeah.
And then they were eligible to collect unemployment because of the CARES Act. So
Yeah, I'm sorry, I explained that really wrong. Yeah, you're right. Thanks for clearing that up.
Yeah. So I mean, at least those guys are getting, around $1,000 a week. That's before taxes though. So everyone remember that.
Yeah.
I mean,
After taxes, that ain't much.
Yeah, and you got to think too. It's not that these guys aren't going to eventually get the opportunity to be back involved in what it is that they love to do, or at least that we assume at some point baseball is going to get it right, and things are going to rebound. But these guys have worked their entire lives for one thing. Like, their skill set is dedicated to this one thing. Very, very few people, have an immediate next career step, especially if they're in what would be the prime of their development years. A lot of these guys are going to have to start beginning to think, shit, life after baseball for me starts at 25, not 45. I got to start thinking on my feet now at one of the worst times to get jobs. That's tough. That's a lot. All these guys are pouring everything they have into it for 15 years. And then to say, here's $400 a week. Oh, the government's going to give you an extra $600. You're paying your taxes, but we don't have an opportunity here for you. We don't know when the next one's going to come up. That's tough.
Yeah, you're putting in all the hard work to achieve the lifelong dream and goal you set out for yourself. And then because of unforeseen circumstances, nobody can control it. Just unfortunately was kind of stripped from you for a period of time, and potentially very long because of the league's feud that they have going on right now.
Yeah, and I don't know why a guy like this immediately comes to mind for me, but like a career just kind of floater, like a Chris Coast, who, like him or not, it's kind of a cool story that came out of the Phillies.
Absolutely.
He was playing in the minors forever and just kind of hung in there and then got a shot in the majors. I mean, there's going to be a bunch of those guys that are like, all right, well, I'm out of baseball for a year. Who knows if the minor leagues are the same the next year? Who knows if the money's there? I'm going to go, deliver pizzas or drive a truck or do whatever I can to support my family, because I'm in my late 30s, early 40s, like, trying to turn to struggle and get this major league career. And that's a sad thing. Like, those kind of stories those kind of stories are amazing. Like, that's one of the reasons that we all love baseball so much.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
well, hopefully some of those guys can become the next Evan Gattises and just go to being at a different job and somehow find their way back into the league.
Nice pull.
There you go.
So it's tough because we have these conversations and we've heard this line so much. It's millionaires fighting billionaires. And Boris comes out, and says, or there was an email that was leaked, it's don't come back for these owners right now if they're going to clip your wings this much. At the end of the day, you are the product, not these owners. Mm-hmm. And many people have been extremely upset with Boris for that. I know from my personal view is I would not come back for 25% of my salary, whether I was making $40 million a year or whether I was making the league minimum $285,000 a year, or whatever the hell it is. I know that I would not go out there and risk the same amount of thing that I would, especially consider if you're a looming free, you're JT Realmuto. You have to build something on a shortened resume and then not know what the money's going to look like coming in and what people are going to put out for a 28-year-old catcher going into next year. Like, what do you do now? This does not behoove anyone to accept a plan that pays you 10 to 25% of your salary. It just doesn't. And it's hard a lot of the times to agree with the Scott Boras, but he's 100% right, at least from my standpoint. I'm curious to see what you guys think on that Boras note.
Yeah, I completely agree with Scott Boras too, and he's the one speaking out publicly for the players right now. And I agree, Scott Boras is kind of a jackass, but times like these, he's an absolute genius. He's revolutionized contracts for players, and think of it this way. I mean, just to go a little bit deeper into like history lessons and stuff, like labor unions were created in the United States to protect players from their employers. And this is one of those situations where employers are just trying to take advantage of people. Yeah. The collective bargaining agreement is due up, I believe, in another year or two. So think about how weak you look in a negotiation if you go, I need this money so bad, I'll play for 10%. And then you have to renegotiate the basis of your entire contract after that. So you're already losing, and you're going to lose again then. So, by giving in now, you're giving in way more than just 1 year's salary.
Absolutely. And it feels like, and again, using it's the billionaires versus the millionaires, it is what it is. it's difficult when you take a look at this kind of a process. And these last, I want to say 6-7 weeks or so, when more news started to come out, when more areas were going yellow, certain places were going green, we were starting to learn and understand what it is that this pandemic has now kind of put in place for all different types of settings, professional sports, jobs in general. It really doesn't matter what you want to say. We go through this process, and it seems as though the more we learn about the safety and security of going forward with some sort of normalcy, the further baseball gets from things, which shows you just how greedy Major League Baseball truly is. This is 100% what Scott just said. This is an employer attempting to 100% take advantage of their product and their employees. It's brutal. It's fucking embarrassing.
Yeah, and I'm sorry, Korean baseball stinks. It's not going to cut it for me this year. I can't just keep talking
Well,
about
you
You
that.
also have to get up at like 4:30 in the morning or all these different times. They have replays, but if you want to watch it live.
We have TVs
You
in
have
the
to get
office
up.
on, and I would have to be just up at
Oh,
1:30 in the
you just
morning.
have to
1:30 in the morning.
Like,
You would just have to not sleep your whole life, Scott.
I mean, I'm okay with that at this point. I'm moving like 4 steps a day now, so like I don't need any sleep. I don't need to eat anymore. I don't need to sleep. Like, it's very cheap to live if you just don't move. But yeah, Korean baseball is weird. There's no fans there. They're not as good. The product is not there.
It might
the
be
quality of
better
the
if that
product.
was the case, though. Because, like, from everything I've heard per reports, if fans are there, Korean baseball is supposed to be ridiculous. Like, I can't remember
Well,
the
fans
Twitter.
make every environment better.
Oh, yeah, but there's some Twitter account that shows the David, whatever his name is, that does a Korean baseball, the English version for the website. I'll have it on the next podcast on Sunday. He put out another guy's Twitter that does all the highlights, and they go nuts over there. It's like some soccer celebrations like you see in Europe, like that high of a level where like Eagles and Seahawks type level. So it would be interesting to see if we felt a little bit different about it if there were fans there. But I agree with Scott as a premise. It's not the same as Major League Baseball whatsoever. Nothing is.
Yeah, it's not. One thing so I've talked about this a lot with the guys that I work with and other buddies and things just via text. All sports, as they come back, have such a unique opportunity to revitalize the way that their fans view the game from home and how interactive and personal we can get. So obviously the world stops anytime any kind of sports related thing is on. Every Sunday we were all unified by watching, Michael Jordan and the Last Dance. That's special. That's amazing that the world literally stops. Twitter is only The Last Dance. You have that golf match earlier this week, and it's a laid back, enjoyable environment that you get to see these athletes go out there and, 2 of whom obvious golfers, 2 of whom were not. But you get a different perspective as to what that day is like out there. And you draw an attachment to these people as people beyond just the athlete. This is an opportunity we talk about how, the NBA has gotten better with how they have made their product marketable and their players marketable. And they've allowed for that kind of a freedom. Baseball sucks. They have done their Facebook Live games by taking the game off TV entirely. That was moronic. But something decent came out of it. They allowed for more interaction, fan interaction, and a more personal side of things. If there are not fans here, there has to be a way that you can get people reinvested and involved. And I'm not saying you go full all-star game and you put a microphone in the back of everybody's pocket and everyone's always mic'd up or people are talking to you constantly, but you can do certain things like that. I would be curious to see, and at this point I'm curious to see what the other sports are, because baseball may never fucking exist again. But if it were to happen in baseball, what kinds of things do you think that they could or should do at this point to revitalize the viewing experience at home if there are not fans? Because the entertainment has to come from somewhere else, because we know people who don't love baseball absolutely suck and need something additional besides the game. What would you guys like to see happen?
You got it.
One of the things that I saw that came out of a Bundesliga team offering was fans were able to pay 20 or $25 and have like a cardboard cutout of them and their family at the games, which is so stupid, but I would absolutely give them $25 for that and then spend the whole game watching for myself to come up in the crowd, which is something I would never do otherwise, but it was just such a cool idea that I was pretty into that.
That's ridiculous.
It was very stupid.
I can't remember. There was a movie, and I can't recall. It was some shitty chick flick, I'm sure. But they couldn't travel the world for their honeymoon, so they figured anywhere
Up in the
anyone
air.
else go. Thank you. It wasn't a bad chick flick. It was a great movie.
It's phenomenal.
God, I love Anna Kendrick, and who wouldn't want to be George Clooney? What a beautiful
Seriously.
man. Thank you. Up in the air. Couldn't remember what it was. That's amazing, though. I would do that. I would 100% pay $25 and try to find myself in the crowd. But I would like 100% Photoshop myself and make me, thin and attractive again.
I'm definitely taking like my body or my head and putting it on the Rock's body and making that.
Oh,
like,
absolutely.
yeah, of
Yeah,
course.
and like you're not that far off, Pebble. Like you're growing.
Absolutely. I mean, you guys haven't seen me in a long time. I've been quarantining. I could look like The Rock right now.
Oh,
You
yeah,
don't even know.
quarantine jacked.
Yeah.
Yoked, I think they call it.
Yeah, probably is what they call it nowadays.
Boric, you had an idea though. So what else did you have?
But well, I was gonna say I was before we came on this podcast. I don't know if anyone knows the country group Alabama, but I was listening to the song "The Cheap Seats," which is all about baseball, and that kind of got me in the feels a little bit, feeling we're not going to have baseball this
I
year.
hate that you said that.
As I was trying to do some work earlier, so that was a weird period, but it was something that, for me, it made me realize when listening to other podcasts over time, they said they could do promotions and different things while you're on, especially if how we have streaming, they could try to have chats like, I know NBC Sports Philly doesn't have this when you stream now, but similar to Facebook Live, you could have a chat or something so you could run more promotions for whatever fan answers these questions right, like the first 5 that answer it right get put in a contest or something like that. And that could help to engage people, plus just advertising better as a whole. The MLB compared to the NBA and NFL is not just one of the best at advertising their game other than on ESPN as a whole. And Fox, like on 2 stations, that's it.
So one of the things that I loved, and this to me comes from the baseball side of me, right? We're expanding rosters if baseball were to come back hypothetically this season, which looks less and less likely every single day because, again, baseball is awful. We're going to keep saying it here at CTP. But should it come back, we're going to have expanded rosters. We're going to have all these people sitting there with nothing to fucking do at all. I love Tom McCarthy. I loathe everyone else in that booth almost always. I want 2 players calling a game from the dugout. I want them mic'd up, and if there's an option, show it on 2 different stations and say, which broadcast do you want to listen to? Do you want to listen to Andrew Knapp because he's not going to have to play? And I pick insert player here. Yeah, I think that'd be hilarious.
Neil Walker.
So sure, why not? Neil Walker.
Yeah, it's the Greg Olson treatment. I mean, there's just rumors that this is completely fabricated, and I think it was clearly just jokes. But as he gets to the end of his career, when he has like a deal struck with ESPN where you can just call a game like, during the season, like it's like, all right, well, why don't we just have him, play the first quarter, call the second quarter, and then, play the third quarter. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
We're setting things up like that. Like, let's get creative now. Like, we're clearly just trying to draw up as much attention as we can to baseball. I agree. I think something like this is a great idea.
That would be hilarious. As I'm here on the sideline, you saw my teammate just get absolutely destroyed. Holy.
But see, that's what I'm saying. You get that live inside look, and you could have another set that we're sitting there and doing a live podcast in there about what goes on, what went on that day in preparation for that game. Like for a baseball junkie like us, or baseball junkies like us, excuse me, because English is a language and it has grammar. I would sit there, watch that game in its entirety. By that time, that live pod will have been over. You get random guests popping by the entire time. Bryce Harper hits another ridiculous grand slam into the upper decks, and he comes over and says some corny bro type thing. And I love it. I can't get enough. Why would I ever not want that kind of a product? Sure, there's always the risk of, hey, you know what? You're putting entirely too much time into this craft versus the craft on the field. But look, this is a unique circumstance, and it's a unique way to get people back involved. And it would not have to be the same people all the time. If it's your off day, hey, it's your time. If you want to jump on a mic, jump on a mic. So I think that's one thing that you could do.
I also think what hurt baseball a lot this year was Stroman of the Mets, of course, was recruiting a lot of guys where this had the potential to, at least for Team USA's purposes, be the most fun World Baseball Classic, where I agree with Harper. We have to go to the Olympics to have the most exposure, but at least you were going to have more fun, elite talent on that team for the first time, really in a while since the first year of the tournament. So that would have been something really fun to see. And now, of course, that's not happening next year, as we heard. So that's another thing that they don't have to market the game outside of all the issues within the inner regular season. So,
also a good point. Sky, you have any other ideas there?
This isn't an idea, but this is just something that I've been realizing more and more about myself. I mean, it's pretty publicly known at this point. Anyone that listens to this show knows that I've been a degenerate gambler and degenerate sports watcher for most of my life. People are going to give up on sports, and they're just going to give up on stuff and never come back through this. Like, I've kind of slowly, it's like what I have to imagine a smoker goes through. That's like, all I want is a cigarette for the first 2 weeks they quit smoking, and then like they get a month away and they're like, you know what, like not smoking's not the worst thing in the world right now. And then they're like 6 months down the road and they're, running marathons and like have real lungs again. Like we're like 3 months into this, and like I've stopped watching, the Sixers playoffs from 2000 over and over again. I've stopped watching, Roy Halladay no-hitters, although we are all definitely going to be watching the Roy Halladay documentary coming out this weekend, and that'll rekindle a little bit of the sports stuff. But, I mean, I don't know. There's just a real risk of, people just doing other stuff in the summer now, and just the audience just going away. Like, even if baseball does miraculously come back.
See, I don't fear that to the same level that you do. Mainly, like, it genuinely isn't a real thought that crosses my mind, because there has been nothing else to do. Like, there are no other additional habits that people have picked up inside their own home. There's only so much bread white people can make. Like, that's kind of it. Like, it's not as though we've had all of these other alternative entertainment options to kind of fulfill our everything. Netflix has been watched. The whole thing, it has been watched. Hulu, it has been watched. Amazon Prime, it has been watched. Everything has been watched. We have not been able to leave our homes for the most part. We're not going out and seeing our friends and families. We haven't been able to go out and go to bars. What else is going to be put on in a bar? Like, they're not going to go put on the Avengers.
Yeah,
Sports will always be here, and I don't.
Yeah.
And especially for the gambling addict, like, I'm sitting here. I bet on fucking everything.
But I think that the risk we're running is to say, because the way things look right now, it looks like we might have a year without baseball, right?
Sure.
So I just get used to not having baseball on for that year. And say, like, I don't know, I end up having like fun this summer and I pick up some hobby or something. I might be like, you know what? Like, maybe I like this hobby better than baseball. Baseball has to sell themselves back to me. I don't have much confidence in baseball being able to sell back to the casual fan. Like, now, as I say this, there's no way I'm ever giving up baseball. There's no way I'm ever giving up sports. I'm locked in for life already. You guys aren't getting rid of me here. Don't worry about it. But I mean, for people that are on the fence a little bit, like, I think they might just start enjoying their summers outside and maybe read a book instead of watching baseball.
No, I get what you're saying, Scott, but I think I'll go back to it no matter what. My two sports growing up have always been hockey and baseball, and both have in recent years, because of how bad baseball has been at marketing himself, got pretty much even. So I would not be shocked if after a year and a half I might make hockey go above baseball and have baseball be under, but I would still be a watcher of it. I don't agree that I would ever stop watching it. I could just see that adjustment in my mind taking place, because I have a chance to see a playoffs plus the start of a whole shortened next season or full season whenever they start it before I even see a baseball season if all the crap hits the fan. So
Yeah, I think what he was the key word was casual, and I didn't take it the way he intended it to initially, Boric, either. But saying that casual fan, like baseball, even in its full swing, doesn't do enough to keep the casual fan entertained. Yes, its ratings have gone down and down and down. The game's too long. This isn't built for this generation any longer. And when you put it that way with the word of casual fans, Scott, I agree. There is an entire group of casual fans that will probably not return, and if they do, it would be even a fraction to the casual that they had already dedicated to this sport. So that's a risk.
Yeah, from a casual fan perspective, you're completely right. I'm sorry, my mic broke up a couple times when you were talking, so I didn't hear that whole part.
Oh, I heard it. I was just dumb. I'm glad your mic cut out. I just misconstrued.
No, it's okay. We're all clearly just fueled with rage right now at Major League Baseball. So, these thoughts, just no one's thinking clearly anymore. I've just been very mad at baseball for the last week. It's just they're looking so bad.
Not great. Absolutely not great. And since it's not been great, we have all decided that we were going to start taking a look and see where our Philadelphia Phillies roster may fit in other sports that are more likely to return. So we're going to shift this topic into this. Scott had a couple beyond the Phillies, so I want to start with things beyond Philadelphia, and then we'll bring it back home with things Philadelphia Phillies related. So, Scott, who is a baseball player right now that you could see having a successful career in another industry?
Okay, so Mike Trout becomes the greatest bowler you've never heard about. Bowler, yeah. I think we can all agree on that. Because it's an irrelevant sport, and he's just kind of irrelevant in the sport of baseball, but he might be the greatest one to ever do it. So no one would really be talking about it. They'd just be like, yeah, there's this quiet guy, Mike Trout. Averages like a 296 all the time. Like,
I might have to challenge that, Scott, because Mookie Betts is already a pro bowler aside from a pro.
But see, that's how good Mike Trout is at baseball or at sports. He would just be like, yeah, you know what? I'm just gonna be the best at this, and like no one even knows about it. Like,
that's amazing.
So I guarantee you right now, he if he went bowling, he's bowling over 200. Like I would feel very comfortable putting all of this money I have not been gambling on baseball on Mike Trout, getting over at 200.
That's awful.
Yeah. So I don't know why. As soon as Andrew brought this topic up, shout out to Andrew for kind of recommending this to us. That was the first thing that came to my mind. Is Mike Trout, guy definitely bowls, just 100.
Guy bowls.
Has to. Yeah.
That's awesome. Boric, so Boric also took a different approach on this as well, so we'll have fun with this one. Boric actually interchanged athlete for athlete in sports. So he's taken a Philly and put him somewhere else, and if he made them an Eagle, well, an Eagle's coming over and fitting in for the Phillies. So Boric, why don't you give us one of yours?
Yeah, well, for one of mine I did first from two shorter speedster guys on each team, and Scott Kingery, or Scotty Jetpacks as people call him, and Travis Konechny, or TK as Flyers fans call him, interchanging those two, because I feel like it would just be hilarious to see. It's so much different to be a fast skater than it is to be a fast runner, so to see Scott Kingery try to implement his game style of being speed first into hockey compared to Konechny implementing his pesky side of himself, and then being a probably similar baseball player to Kingery because of his size. Of course, he wouldn't have the most power like Scotty. So those would just be two funny guys I thought to flip side to side, since they're both kind of shorter guys that rely on their skill and speed to help their game as well, more than other guys. And then an easy one for me that I had was Harper and Wentz. I just switched Harper and Carson, and I said, well, it would be hilarious to see Bryce Harper playing quarterback for the Philadelphia Eagles, and then seeing Carson Wentz, who of course is very good at softball and I believe played baseball, so playing baseball in the outfield for the Phillies, where that would just be a cool switcheroo and a funny sight to see as well. So those are the two main ones I had.
So,
all right.
I had Bryce Harper as a weightlifter.
Yeah, man, I had him as an American gladiator. Oh, yeah. Wow, that's even better.
Yeah, because remember, so there was a year when he was on the Nationals, I think probably his like third year there or so. he just got jacked in the off season, and people were like, why did you get so big? He's like, I don't know, I just like kind of got into weightlifting, and he was enormous. Like he probably put on like 30 pounds of muscle, and he was fucking shredded. Like he was like almost too big to play the game of baseball. Yeah, exactly. Did it all clean. Like he could totally be in the Olympics if he put his mind to it.
I 100%. That was way better than my Bryce Harper one. I had him as an American Gladiator, but I can so see him with like the American flag fucking headband thing and entirely too much chalk or whatever it is, baby powder, whatever it is that they use, and just being obnoxiously loud. I think it was built for him. I think you're right.
I agree.
World's strongest man.
I don't want to say it too convincingly, because if Bryce Harper leaves the Phillies for weightlifting, I would feel slightly responsible at this point.
He's going to need to do something else.
And it's true, he might. I mean, so.
One of the funny ones I had wasn't switching him to a sport, but just as a joke because of the whole Uncle Larry thing with McCutcheon, was I put for Andrew McCutcheon switching him from a baseball player to a Hollywood director. Because I figured after he retires, he already comes up with a bunch of great skits. He's one of the best followers on Twitter and Instagram, so he might as well take his talents to Hollywood afterwards.
Yeah, Kutch is a funny dude, man. He is gold. So if you do not follow him on Twitter, you probably should.
I had Andrew McCutcheon becoming a world-class ballroom dancer, winning the hearts of America.
I could see him doing that
on Dancing with the Stars, and just taking over the hearts and minds of many, being just a heartthrob to all the young girls, just having the sickest moves and obviously the sweetest outfits out there. Like,
oh, absolutely.
Yeah,
he's got that swagger.
Oh, for sure.
He absolutely does. He's the only person we're ever allowed to use that word for, by the way. Yeah, it's just I don't make the rules. It just is what it is. That's a quality poll for him. So I had also, based on looks, I had Andrew Knapp as a polo master. I just 100% with that stupid mustache and his just overly awesome hair. Yeah, he just looks like that guy.
Yeah. I had Sir Didi Gregorius being an Olympic fencer.
Nice.
British people fence, I guess. I don't really know. I just thought it was a funny play on the night thing. So.
Oh, that's awesome. I had Roman Quinn as a jockey because he's small and he always loses me money. Trying to think what else I had. Oh, this is the one I was most proud of. So these guys both look like golfers to me, Adam Hazley and Alec Bohm. So I have them co-captaining the Ryder Cup team.
Okay.
I think that's pretty legit.
Yeah.
I think that's honestly, I don't know why they don't quit baseball right now. Like, just move on. You got 4 months until September, until the 2020 Ryder Cup's up. Just go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, Aaron Nola's got some hockey hair, but I don't think he's a hockey player. So he also reminds me of, I had this awesome physics teacher when I was in high school. Shout out to Mr. Warwick if he's still out there. But he was a retired, like, world-class long distance runner, and Aaron Nola just kind of strikes me as Mr. Warwick. So in my eyes, he's just one of the most boring professions, just a runner, like a world-class runner. In Europe, there's a giant league for that, I learned, and Mr. Warwick had a bunch of awesome stories about it. So enjoy your time in Europe, Aaron. Stay safe.
That's awesome.
I think one of the funnier ones I put Edgar Garcia as a specific player, not in Philadelphia, because nobody's this inaccurate in Philadelphia. I put Edgar Garcia as Jameis Winston.
Okay.
Is he also getting LASIK eye surgery?
No, I don't know about that part, but he probably should get it if he's not. He's not very accurate at seeing the plate. So.
Fair. I put Tommy Hunter as a brunt defenseman for the Flyers because I feel like he just should not do anything other than baseball. But then he got himself in like decent shape again, and I was like, he could be a sixth defenseman and a four. Goalies are little guys, dude. They have to be. Goalies are built like Scott.
Goalies in this year's,
awkwardly skinny and flat.
Yeah, there's a couple 6-something goalies in this year's draft.
Yeah.
They're not built like Tommy Hunter.
No, they're not
like
built. No,
3
they're not
pounds away from a sumo wrestler.
No, they are not fat like Tommy Hunter.
That's what I'm saying. But he could I 100% believe that he is the guy who would get into a fight and never lose on a hockey rink.
He could just shit on you after you.
Well, it's not even like that. No, I just think he would whoop your ass. And then if you happen to lose on the initial fight on the ice, I think that he would climb over the penalty box and continue and win. I just think he's a badass dude.
Oh, absolutely. I do not want to meet him in a dark alley.
No, absolutely not. What's the nerdiest sport ever created? Because that's Pat Neshek. He's not a Philly any longer, mercifully, but
gaming?
Still. Gaming?
Like
no.
What about darts? Darts
is a good one.
Yeah. Although darts players are kind of cool sometimes. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know, man. I feel like he probably wraps an old school bandana around just his forearm and wears too many rings and maybe I don't know, has some jewelry in his beard or something. It doesn't work for me. So darts is probably the way to go for a Pat Neshek. Fucking nerd.
I have
for Vince because Vince only knows how to throw it fast, and maybe if he can get more accurate, he can be successful in darts rather than pitching on a baseball field.
Nah, he's too athletic, man. You can't have that guy stand still.
Well, that's true, but I'm just going by the fact that his arm is accurate.
His arm's athletic.
He's accurate.
Nice
he's
point.
accurate for 2 innings. And then kind of goes to wonder after that so far in his career.
I really wanted Rhys Hoskins to be the Todd McCullough of the 76ers again, but he's only 6'4", not an awkward 7 foot tall, just pudgy white dude from Canada. So what I came up with instead for him is, I'm not sure if any of you guys have ever watched the competitive cornhole that they have on ESPN. I think awesome. Rhys Hoskins would be an awesome cornhole player, and he wouldn't be the one that talks and says a bunch of shit during the game. He'd be the quiet guy with a glove on that just doesn't miss. He's just tactical. Gets in, gets out. Doesn't want any of the fame. Just does it all for the sport. Collects his $47 check for winning, and that's it.
All right, so I need to bring something up about Rhys Hoskins because I told Stephanie that I would. Stephanie, obviously, whom I've spoken about often on this show, she is my live-in girlfriend thing. She's great. She's way out of my league. Love her. But she comes up with really dumb shit every once in a while. When I can't think for myself for this podcast, I often ask her because ordinarily she's fairly brilliant. This was, in my opinion, one of those cases where she was not. But I did tell her that I would bring this to the pod, and I would have forgotten had no one brought up Rhys Hoskins. However, brought up Rhys Hoskins, I asked her what she believed he could do athletically. So she ignored that rule, and she just went in life in general. Rhys Hoskins, pull up a picture of him real quick on your phone.
Got
I'll let the listeners do it too. Great. All right, now zoom into the fact that you can only see the features of his eyes, nose, and mouth, that little center just area of his face.
Okay.
Does he look like Shaggy from Scooby-Doo?
Yeah, he kind of does.
Fuck! God damn it.
You have to block out the hair. That's the hardest part of it.
Yeah, well, that's what she said. She said the features of his face. If you zoom in on just that, he looks like Shaggy. And I told her she was full of shit, and I couldn't see it.
A little bit. I don't see it as much as Scott does, but I would say a little bit.
Yeah, I think it's just part of it's just because I have this.
I think if he had more of a scruggy, like a scruggy look, he would look more like Shaggy. He doesn't really look off as a baseball player, so it's not like he has a shirt on top. It's not like he's out of sorts like Shaggy. So
the only thing, so after saying that thing about the cornhole, I just imagine him being just a nerd, and I don't really know if he is. He's probably a cool guy. Reese, I'd love to get a beer with you one day as soon as the bars open up, so don't hold this against me, but I don't know. I just had this thing in my head that he's not goofy like Shaggy was. So
he might be a little goofy though, because I actually have a funny story about that. Now that you brought up beer, I remember in the 2018 season when you were out when I was out in left field, and some drunk guy that was next to me as a fan was chanting to Reese. He's like, "Yo, Reese, let's go get a beer after this game," and he said it about 20 times.
Was
and
it you?
No. And eventually, when eventually Hoskins turned around and looked at him and went, and shrugged his shoulders and went, maybe, for after the game where he kind of played to the crowd a little bit, especially after he hit a home run when he played left field. So he's someone I could see a little bit personality-wise. It's just I don't see him as out of sorts as someone that would remind me of a Shaggy. And then in the face, he only reminds me of it a little bit. I wouldn't say as much as to maybe where you're at with it, Scott.
Yeah, it's a weird look, Steph, but I definitely do see it. I don't know.
That really, really upsets me. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah.
But you can have her, man. Is what it is.
But,
so we haven't talked about JT Realmuto, and I feel like he's
because he does everything.
I know, and that's why I had a hard time with him. I wanted to come up with something hilarious, but I couldn't.
I came up with shot put. That's what I mean.
That's not terrible.
Yeah, he's one of the best at throwing people out. You figure shot put's just taking the heavy spherical ball and just chucking the joint as far as possible.
Don't say John. Don't say John. Don't do it. Fuck.
You're giving Shane a heart attack over there, Borg.
So it's a sport that would definitely suit JT, especially in his time off to keep his arm strength up and even make it better potentially. So that's the reason I went with that.
Jesus. See, for JT, I had so many different things crossed out, and it occurred to me that I do believe that he is such a talented and versatile athlete and a unique athlete that I believe that he would be the person that sports would legitimately run through him. And I feel like he would play all the core four sports all the time. And he would never get schedules would be made for him. So if it was baseball season and football season, both games would be in Philadelphia. That is what it is. If the playoffs came around and he had a football game, sorry, there's 5 days off in between this game because JT's got a rest. I feel like that's kind of what he commands because he's quiet, but he's a killer. He's awesome. I wrote down too many different sports, and he's a cool dude. So he's a core four guy for me all at the same time.
So not only is he going to play all the sports, but he's also going to commentate every single one while he plays them.
Whilst playing.
Yeah, because I also want to hear what he has to say about the games he's playing in.
I think that's a quality poll also.
Yeah.
Well, if we're going to put JT on commentating, then we got to get him and Andrew McCutcheon on commentating, because if you got those two guys going at it in the same game, you're never going to be able to sit still. You're going to be probably laughing off the whole entire game.
I had Odubel as a rap hype man because I can't see him playing any other sports. I just see him in the background on stage behind some big time rapper, like a Jay-Z or someone like that, just shaking his head around, going nuts. Because I don't really want to hear him speak anywhere else. I don't really want to hear him, or don't imagine him playing any other sports. So I couldn't see him in a field in an athletic way anymore. I don't know why. I didn't know that I had that view about him until we did this exercise. So
that's bizarre.
Yeah. Yes. Learning new things about myself even in day, 7,000 of quarantine.
I had Jay Bruce as a guy. I wrote a couple things for him, but I had him as a guy because he's bigger at 230, maybe playing basketball and using his body to be able to be somewhat effective down low. And if he had a solid mid-range lefty shot, he could be somewhat effective off of the bench for a basketball team. That's kind of what I had him at because of his bigger build. He might get banged up.
I had him as a fisherman. But anything not where you did not have to move. That's what I had him as.
The thing, it's not like he always got injured. He started getting injured later in his career. So
yeah, but he's not athletic at all. But I feel like he could just be a champion bass fisherman
at all. He was pretty good for a few years.
I had him as a heavyweight in the UFC, but a specific kind of heavyweight that throws 3 punches in the first round and either destroys someone or gets so gassed that he's just embarrassing for the next 2.5 rounds, and some other dude just rides him for the rest of it. So yeah, because he's a big ass dude and he definitely has no stamina. I think we can all agree on that.
Very much so.
Yeah.
Anyone we didn't cover that you guys have before we sign this one out tonight?
I only had I know he's really accurate in baseball, but for translating to football, I put Adam Hazley as a Tim Tebow type because you probably can't translate actual throwing in baseball to throwing in football, and he's a quicker, athletic guy that would probably be able to run effectively, but throwing would probably be pretty close to a Tim Tebow. So that's the only other one I had going into that. He just reminded me of.
I like Adam Hazley.
I do like. I also really like Adam Hazley. I just don't think he's a guy that translates very well to another sport. Like in football, wide receiver maybe.
Ryder Cup champion.
But
Yeah.
well, okay. But I'm talking about the other core four.
Or ping pong.
In ping pong, he probably is pretty good at because they usually have a ping pong table in the club.
Lefties are disgusting.
Yeah. But Hazley, I do think, will be good in the MLB. I'm just talking about I wouldn't see him as the best quarterback in football. I would see him more as the runner. But in the MLB, I hope he's our future center fielder because I do like the guy.
Mickey Moniak.
Yeah, he might be our future left fielder because Kutch ain't young.
He's a much better fielder than what Adam Hazley is. Not that we'll ever know. Baseball may never return. We don't know. All right, any final thoughts here before we sign this one out, guys?
No, just we'll reiterate that me and Boric are probably wrong, and looks like we might not get baseball in July, but, I'm also trying to just reverse jinx a jinx that I put out there at this point. So we're getting desperate. We need baseball back.
Yeah, I just got to echo what Scott said. I mean, we were wrong and wrong. Hopefully it reverses everything. So, wrong. And everyone just stay well and stay positive, and I wish everyone a great weekend. And, of course, I hand it over to Shane now, and we'll be back on Sunday.
Yeah, we will. So we're not sure if we're going to stick with the 3 shows a week. We don't want to water down some of this content. If enough comes out for shows that'll come out on Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Sundays, we will certainly provide you with that content. At this point, we're going to just kind of ride when the content hits. We will always have a Sunday show, and we will always have at least one of the days during the week. My final thoughts are, Thad, we miss you, man. We love you. And then always, always, always visit our guy, Asian Rob, over at Just Food, 215. Shit, I don't even have the paperwork in front of me. Go to Just Food, jffood.com. It's fantastic. And then just say that any one of the CTP guys had sent you. It would be awesome if you did it whilst wearing any of our merchandise, which will be available for purchase soon, we think. Also designed by Rob, so he'll be able to peg you out immediately. But yeah, definitely enjoy a nice meal over there. And then if you don't feel like entertaining their food for a single meal, but you'd like to feed it to hundreds of people, I will bartend your wedding for Just Food. That's going to be it here for the Chasing the Pennant podcast. I am Shane for Scott and for Boric. We will see you guys on Sunday with the rest of the team.
A fighting man I used to be, revered and feared through Killarney. Now I'm back to hitching with the wind. But if Mickey Flynn should ever find me, I'll throw me caution all behind me and square off on that son of a bitch again. He cracked open a river too, he beat me Sunday through and through, and such over my unconscious frame. I won me healthy sheriff fights, well lucky son, still happy life since Mickey Flynn beat me dumb and lame.